What is up, everybody? It is me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea. And today I am joined by none other than Scott Earl from the draft. You remember him, season 8. And we're going to be talking a little bit about episode 6. I know another episode comes out tomorrow night with the new time change, but we're gonna be recapping, kind of analyzing what happened in the previous episode. But Scott, really happy to have you on to talk about it. How have you been enjoying the season so far? Last time I spoke to you, we were drafting teams.
I am enjoying the season. I feel like everyone is here to play. I think everyone's having fun, which is always fun to watch people having fun. It seems a lot more fluid this season. It's really dynamic, right? Like there are some connections and alliances, but they seem very loose. People have been willing to let go of friends when they need to. It's in a way, it's kind of explosive and hard to predict who's going to go home because it seems like it's everything on track for someone going out, and the next thing you know it flips, so it's really hard to know what's going to happen, and it makes it fun as a viewer. I imagine a little bit nerve-wracking as a player, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and I guess this episode that we're going to be talking about today is our first hashtag blindside, I would say, of the
Yeah.
season. So the first three votes, guys kind of knew where it was coming from, but we kind of experienced a blindside there with Keaton. Anybody jumping off the page in these first opening episodes for you in terms of just like either in control or playing a very dynamic game of some sort?
Look, I doubted him. I almost didn't pick him for my team. I'm so glad I did. Drew Olson is going to win this season of Ascendance Live 2. It's the winner's edit, baby. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. He's got the connections. I think I was worried because Erica and Chris kind of were the two from season 9 who seemed to really want to link up, and Drew is a good player. And I thought maybe they could out him, plus Jodely was going to go after him, but he seems super insulated. He's got the powers. He's in a good spot. He has a lot of people looking out for him. So he right now is my pick. My number 2, also from Team Scott, is Taisha. I think she's in a great spot as well. I mean, she's part of both like the alliances we've seen coming up, and she's playing that game of just sitting back, letting people come to her, keeping, I think, kind of weighing in without being too dominant. And you have to play that middle of the road kind of game, I think, in the beginning of Ascendance, so you don't stick out too much, but you're also safe. So those two are my, I'd say, hopping out the most in terms of just like having fun with the game. People seem to be connecting to them. And I don't think their names have come up much. So that seems like a promising sign.
Yeah, 100%. Drew, I also was pretty worried about, preseason, but I think he definitely has got his footing here. And he's
Yeah.
got, a couple powers up his sleeve. And so this episode 6 here, we get basically the back end of Melissa's captain reign. So she won captain and she set up the teams. Seems like it was a much needed win for Melissa. Melissa, from your season, how did you react to silence, no cheering for Melissa when she won her captain?
Oh, I was the complete opposite. I was cheering my ass off. I was so excited for Melissa. I mean, just even advancing 2 spots, like she is not in a great position in this game. It's just, it seems like right now it's easy to find the name that has traction. Like, oh, this person's name came up, let me float it again. Her name's out there. But she does seem to be having people who either really want to work with her or use her as a shield. To her, just making it past the double elimination and getting 2 spots further, the game shifts, right? It shifts even more since it was double elimination. So I'm all aboard Team Melissa. I love Melissa. I think she's awesome. I don't know. I don't think she's that big of an offender. I don't really see the Melissa, let's get Melissa out hype. I think it's just when someone has control early, it's easy to look at them. But I'm thinking of, in my season 8, we had someone, Isaiah, who I think was an early personality early, and he had people against him and people with him. And, he was able to work his magic and make it pretty deep in the game. And I'm hoping Melissa does the same.
Do you think, knowing the outcome of these next two, eliminations where she's voting and she's safe, do you think that she can rebound from this point, seeing who's been eliminated?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Melissa really wasn't getting necessarily her way, which I think speaks to maybe where she is in the game of just trying to use this as a, I think she had to pivot from saying, I want to get Kennedy out and have some control over these votes to let me just kind of go with the team. And, when you're part of votes and you're building trust, Melissa voted right. Like she's not voting against these people. So she can say, hey, I didn't vote you off. Now you're all still in the game, right? So I think hopefully there was a little bit of trust building with the different teams by being able to go with the flow versus kind of stick your foot in the ground. Um, so yeah, I think maybe it helped her a little bit, and we'll see. I think she has good chops, and hopefully, just as people are getting a little bit further in the game and thinking about making jury, um, they'll start. I'm assuming alliances might start forming at this point as people start thinking more about getting past just the next vote into how do I make a deeper run in the game. And Melissa as a shield, yeah, that's someone you might want on your side.
So in this episode, right, Scott, there basically was, you kind of had to like stay up all night a little bit. You had to like watch the video if you didn't have to, but it's highly recommended, kind of like it might be a challenge, and like everybody is in an elimination at this point. So how would you fare if you were like thrown into a situation where you were like balancing both of those things?
Look, I'm telling you from a like at my house kind of view, I would be up all night watching, talking, but I've fallen asleep standing up at the club. I don't trust myself. I'd be passed out. I mean, it's a tiring. It's just I don't know. If you're any sort of introvert, you're around all these people nonstop, just a bunch of personalities, trying to be your best. You're putting out a lot of effort. So I don't blame Wesley. He's tired. I don't blame him. So I'm glad I'm glad that wasn't the downfall of him in this episode. But yeah, I mean these connect. It's a short game, right? So anytime you can spend making connections does go a long way. So you have to take care of yourself. You want to be mentally sharp for the next day. Getting a few hours of sleep seems helpful, but it's a tough balance. But also your body just does what it wants. If you're gonna be falling asleep, you're falling asleep.
Why not both, So you mentioned Wesley going to bed early. It seemed like for that vote, that was really could have been bad for him had they not had the 20 minutes right before the elimination. So I want to flip the script and like kind of talk about Jake. Stayed up all night, really was in the mix talking with his team, and these last 20 minutes kind of just like he got screwed. He was the one that the name landed on. So how difficult do you think that would be to stay up all night and then all your work that you put in is
Yeah, it
just like
sucks.
that
I
in 20
know
minutes?
I think my understanding is he's a veteran of the LRGs. I know I got to witness just from a viewer perspective survival challenge he's playing. So I'm sure he's used to playing these LRGs without a lot of sleep. He put his heart into it, right? So I'm glad he can at least walk away saying he gave it everything he could. I think what's happening is maybe he didn't demonstrate his challenge prowess when he didn't necessarily need to. And then you have the savvy player like Paul who is thinking ahead. And it seems like Paul and Hot Girl Chris were like an unlikely pairing in my head, but we're able to have a really open, honest conversation. And of course, I mean, it definitely must speak to Wesley to some degree, right? Like we only see an edited version. I'm sure he's making good inroads as well. There's a reason why they wanted to turn the tides, because you could have just said, yeah, Jake's, good at challenges. Let's get him out later and get rid of Wesley. But there must have been something behind the scenes where Wesley is building rapport. So yeah, sucks for Jake. I'm glad I think he gave it his all. And if you're going to go out, to at least know it's because you're a threat versus people don't get along with you. Maybe it's a little solace, right? I don't know, but still sucks.
What did you make of Jake's last ditch effort there during the vote to kind of fake maybe a pendant in the shelf area and kind of bluff some people at the end? Would you have bought that?
I think I wouldn't have bought it. Probably I say that with, what's the thing like Monday armchair? I don't know. The thing after
Monday morning quarterback?
That's exactly it. Sports analogies and me do not go well together. I don't think I would have bought it, but I mean, you could do nothing or you could try something, right? It's like Adam Klein trying to play the podium and Survivor. Sorry if there's Survivor spoilers here. I won't say anything else.
They've had to have watched it by now.
It's past. It's fine. So you have to give him credit for trying, right? Yeah, the writing seemed to have been on the wall to some degree at that point for him. So
yeah, tough for Jake. If you guys want to catch more of what Jake had to say, you can check out his exit interview that is on the page. It'll probably be linked somewhere here. I don't know. And so we have another elimination. This is a double elimination round where we see the first, like I mentioned, the first blindside. We see Keaton kind of blindsided here. Were you surprised there was the first kind of formation of an alliance in the game thus far? So Keaton kind of got the raw end of that stick.
I think I'm almost surprised it didn't happen sooner from what we saw, right? Like you expect these things to happen off the jump. So of course it makes sense if you're at like a do or die vote. You're going to say, okay, what are all the relationships I've built so far? What social capital do I have? And how can I pull together in a way that's going to keep me safe in this moment? So yeah, that's where having this team vote together, it seems like that was kind of the impetus for them all to unite. I don't know, like Melissa's, I guess it's been hard to kind of track who, how does everyone feel about everyone? But it seemed like Melissa maybe could have stacked the teams a little better in hindsight, because this could have been an opportunity to maybe stick Kennedy on there. I don't know, maybe Kennedy and Drew have, I forget Kennedy's connections. Maybe it's Kennedy and Keaton, but this could have been maybe the chance to get Kennedy out. It seemed like Keaton just by default ended up being the name when they weren't necessarily like dying to get rid of Keaton. And yeah, I definitely feel bad for him. He's someone I know from the Ascendance community. I think he really tries to push himself in every game that he plays. So you can tell he really wanted it, and he took it like a champ. So proud of him for going out with his head held high, of course.
Absolutely. Yep. Keaton. Another exit interview that you guys can check out on the page. I'm going to be talking to Keaton later tonight. And so basically, what do you think about the alliance that was formed that took Keaton out? So it seemed like Thomas felt like his name was out there. He did receive some votes from Keaton and Erica, but he made this 4-person alliance. Do you think that's gonna, last throughout the season, or do you think this is kind of just a here and now thing?
Well, so it's Drew, Taisha, Thomas, and Erica, right?
And Zoe. Erica, I don't think was in that one.
Erica's not part of it. Yeah, that seems like a good dynamic group. I know there seems to be some connection with at least some like configurations of the women in the game as well. So I think there's different. There's Thomas and Drew, who I believe are friends from beforehand. So there seem to be some deep inroads. I feel like there's also a little bit, the new school ascendance of like Taisha and Drew and Erica and maybe Jodalee. Maybe not. Maybe Melissa to some extent with that group seem to be working well together. So yeah, I think if you have that alliance and you've already showed trust, why not? But those are a lot of the names of people who I'm thinking, if they make it to the end, watch out, right? So you might see some people finding the opportunity to cut a tie here or there with getting a little blood on their hands as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the alliance go deeper, but maybe not the final 4. People are playing smart. Because Zoe too is someone who I've really had my eye on. I think she's navigated a little bit of adversity with like the original or the early weeks of her and Kennedy issues, but she's a lot of different connections across the house, it seems like. So that's someone else to look out for. And if those 4 look out for each other, that's a pretty powerful core.
100%. And I was just thinking about it, though the 3 of those people were from that wine reward in the first episode as well. And just kind of add Drew in there.
Kind of funny. You never thought that would really, I don't know, like that betting on that wine really seemed to solidify some connections. I was worried maybe you would put them away from everyone else in the house, but those are some of the early connects.
It's funny to watch the other wine reward, and now 2 of those members are gone.
Kind of fell apart, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully the wine was tasty. Sounded like it was good from what they were saying. So
Yep, sounded good from what they were saying. But I wanted to ask you, we kind of touched on some people that we thought were doing well in the game. Is there anybody that you could see, potentially being voted out soon?
what's been challenging is just not really knowing how things are. It's like I'd never like it took me maybe till 10 minutes of the episode ending to even think Chris would be someone possibly eliminated, right? So it's kind of been things just pivot last minute. Obviously, Melissa is the first name of someone who's going to have to navigate being a little bit in trouble with everything. Wesley just had his name out in a big way, so that could be another name that's it's been out a lot. Obviously, the fact he hasn't been eliminated says something, but it seems like those names of Wesley, maybe the car hype train car. I forget what the exact word is there, but
All aboard the car hype
maybe,
train.
yeah,
Choo choo.
maybe Carson could be in trouble. Just the names that you keep hearing seem to keep getting the same traction. Hot Girl Chris seems to have some connections, but once again, that's another name that's come up. And then I guess Kennedy, right? Like Kennedy is someone who is like Melissa's main target. It's a name that's been out there. I think Kennedy got a little bit lucky with the last formation they were in. So I think we'll see. The big question for me is Jodely. My dear friend Jodely, who I love and adore. I feel like they have some people really in their corner, and then they have some people, bringing up their name a lot. From Eric's elimination to just, it's been a hot topic, I think.
It'll be interesting to see how Jodely plays these next coming rounds. He seems to have recovered from that Eric name drop somewhat.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's hard to know, right? Like these names that we keep hearing, is it that because they're not actually getting eliminated, they have more social clout than we think, or is it their name's already out there, so are they just going to continue to be the name? Because these like weeks between our episodes, they go by really quick in real time. So if you don't have, if there's no one really throwing out a name, I think it's easy to default to a name that you've already heard and be like, oh, I heard, what do you think? I know this person's name has already been out. Do we just go with that? Is this the next vote? Is that, you can kind of almost just use that as a way to put out information without being the one to say, I want this person out, right? So if I want Wesley out, I could be like, oh, well, Wesley almost went out last time. It seems like people want him out. Should we just go with that? Versus if it's Drew, you really have to lead a crusade against Drew at this point, it seems like. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. The gameplay and alliances have been pretty all over the map so far. So that's my kind of non-answer, I guess.
No, that's a great answer. I wanted to ask you, because we were kind of messaging before we started recording about, alliance. Let's get all the alliances down so, we know what we're talking about kind of thing. But really, there hasn't been, until this episode, really any alliance that's been mentioned in multiple episodes. It's kind of just been, like you mentioned, a very fluid game as opposed to season one where we have the Duckies where they go real far, right? So are you surprised with that, or is it just the way the season has been shaken out?
I wonder if it's two things. One, this cast seems a little less connected than season one. And then I think the second thing is if I came into the season not knowing a lot of people, I would probably be worried that everyone else knows each other from seeing last season. And I might be a little bit more hesitant to really be super assertive in any gameplay in case I'm talking to someone who I just built a relationship with that seems really great, but they actually secretly have a really deep connection with someone from, an org or some other connection or some other kind of avenue. So it seems like people are proceeding with caution. Do we start with more people? Does it just feel like there's more people? I don't know.
There's 18 people this season. The last season there was 16, so we have 2 more this season.
Maybe there's just been a little bit more room to hide. I don't know what exactly it is, but it does seem like people are willing to play them more week to week and kind of have trust clusters going back to Survivor 33, I think there, versus like the solid alliances. And I think honestly, trust clusters might lend well to Ascendance, right? Because if you are being thrown around in different groups every week, you never know who you're going to be stuck with. So having that like ability to maneuver and have options open could be really helpful.
It's got to be crazy, the players going in there, playing this kind of style game with the trust clusters with how quickly each round is too. You really got to play on your feet, it seems like.
Yeah, like I would say like I don't think we've seen anything about Paul and Hot Girl Chris being an alliance, but to have that open conversation about let's make a move here versus doing the easy name, there's trust there, right? So what does that look like next round, 2 rounds from now, 3 rounds from now? Is it that that turns into an alliance? Is it that that was just getting them by this week? It's hard to say. Yeah, TBD.
TBD. And I'd love to do a little bit of speculation here with you now.
Sure.
Kind of just, I wanted to pick your brain on jury. When do you think jury's going to come up? We're now 5 people eliminated, 13 left. Do you think we're going to be seeing something soon, or something maybe around
Hmm.
11?
I feel like 11's the obvious number. I know when I played Ascendance the org, we were really thinking it would start at 11 and it started at 9. But I also think that when people have paid money to be there and are part of the in-person experience, production might want to open that jury up for a bit more people. So I would think maybe 11's the spot we're looking at. Which, yeah, 7 pre-jury seems to make sense. I forget, was it maybe it was a jury of 9 last season?
Yeah, jury of 9, I think last season. I think
Yeah,
there
so that
was
seems like
11.
that seems like the natural. I would imagine I would be weird to think that a bigger cast would have a smaller jury, right? So I'm thinking 11 makes sense. Yeah.
Do you think that there is going to be a competition to get back in the game from the pre-jurors? It's
I was
something that I've been.
wondering that. I don't think so. I don't know. I feel like they've been doing a good job of making sure the eliminated players get to like be part of the experience in some way, even if it's just drawing ping pong balls or something. So I feel like they're trying to include them to make, to extend their experience. I feel like maybe they'd be a bit more isolated if it was a buyback kind of competition, but I have no idea. I don't think Ascendance does the buybacks too often. I know like the online game did it in the All-Star season, but that's the only time I can remember it.
Yeah, the only time they've ever done it was in, All Stars. I just say it just because it seems like there has been more face time for the pre-jurors, as opposed to last season, and
Hmm.
maybe larger amount of people might, I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about.
Be fun.
Be fun. It'd be fun. If pre-jury was doing a buyback with the 5 contestants, would you say Jake's probably the, you know, lead favorite to come back in?
I mean, right now you would say that it's just so hard to know, right? Like I would say I'm really good at a word puzzle and I would be really bad at, I don't know, balancing. So maybe Chris will come in his, Zen mode and have like crank out a good balance endurance competition. We've seen Jade be good at like the speed and I think quick thinking. So that lends well to some challenges. Maybe there's other areas he's not as strong at, but I do think he is the favorite right now. Yeah. I'm hoping there's not a buyback just personally because my team's doing pretty well as it is. I don't want to, can't let anyone else sneak through.
We have to figure out whether that would be competition points. I don't know.
You're right. They're making it hard for you. So let's just say there should not be a buyback or else it messes up the drafts.
100%. Let's keep it. Well, I kind of want to see a buyback, honestly. It
Yeah,
doesn't really
fine.
matter
Me
to
too. It would be fun. Also, I don't know. I'm always biased towards the online gamers. And I watched Chris play as like an active member of the viewers
Yeah.
lounge. I'm so active I can't remember what it's called. So Chris yeah, but everyone's been great who's been eliminated.
So winner pick, are you going to be sticking with Drew?
Mm, I don't know. He's just getting a lot of confessionals. There's the powers. There's the fact that I know Drew has connections in the game. I know he's a good player. I think he's a really good head on his shoulders. I think he's wants to win enough where he is really loyal, but would probably cut someone. So there's just something about Drew that's making me want to say Drew. I do think Taisha is probably my second pick right now. I don't know, like even when you have the powers, right? Like that helps you make a move and build a resume point. So I think that's just like all the data points right now show Drew as maybe the favorite. For me, I would say third maybe is Zoe, just on strength of their social skills. And I think she's done like a really good job at navigating all of that. Erica, I think, is someone to watch for in terms of someone who's just super likable. She has conceded a lot in the early game, so that could be a weakness, but I think it's also a point to say that if she makes it to the end, she knew when to let allies go. That's always a hard part in any game, especially Ascendance, when you want to exert some control, even if you're safe, um, to save someone, and then you have to make the decision point: do I save them and possibly put my own neck on the line and burn some bridges, or do I just let them go and rely on my other connections? The fact that Erica's still doing well despite losing some of her friends with Chris and Kian, I think also makes her a potential pick.
Yeah, and I think Erica has been getting a lot of confessionals as well. So if you're like really into like reading into the edit,
Magic
that could be
of
if you're an
Ascendance.
edgic. Yeah. Um, well, Scott, that is pretty much all I had in terms of this episode. Is there anything regarding Ascendance Live, whether it be this episode or something earlier that you want to talk about?
Let me just say, because I think I've talked about at least a little bit of everyone on my team. I want to say Marvin was the last one on my team. I didn't get a full read on him beforehand, but I think he's doing a really good job as well. Like, he's just someone who I don't think his name's gotten a lot of traction. He seems super flexible. He seems like he's able to just join a lot of different conversations and kind of integrate really well with people. So I also just want to give him some props and kudos. And then Paul too was someone who I think I was worried about, because we're seeing someone who's a bit on the older side. And I say this too as someone in my 30s, but this is a young group. But on the older side compared to this group, I think he's fit in well and is able to, like I said, like Paul and Hot Girl Chris is not the duo I would have pegged of having a serious game talk last episode. So for him to do that, it's showing that he's doing something really right. So I'm just, team silver to gold. I was second last season. I think first place could be here. And I'm really I'm really proud of my team. And a special shout out to Jodalee and Melissa from Ascendance 8. They're, having fun watching them.
Quickly, did you catch the Marvin with the power 2 weeks ago, where he kind of had to like snatch it in front of a whole bunch of people?
I've kind of lost track of powers, because in my head, dependents are great. And then a lot of the other powers of like sit someone out, switch a team. I almost like those almost go in the back of my head because they're not as important. But Marvin does have like a good power, right? And I drew as a pendant. Someone has a half pendant. And then
I
there's
think
the
that's what
three
Marvin picked up was the half
half
pendant.
pendant. So that's going to be interesting to figure out, how do you signal to someone that you have a half pendant? What do you do with that? Is it just that you prevent someone else from getting full pendant if you're not on their side? Is there any kind of bargaining power with that? So, I mean, I'm excited. I think I got points for that. Thanks, Marvin. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I'm also wondering, like, when are these just getting hidden? I don't think all of them probably started hidden, because they were doing a lot of searching in the beginning of the game. So maybe things are just slowly being introduced. I guess I'm a little curious what the flow is of powers joining the game.
It looks like this past episode, which started off with the other half pendant being, shown in that plant scene.
Ah,
So maybe the halves were introduced a little bit later, and maybe a third one will come out when one's played, kind of like Survivor. Not
yeah.
too sure. But yeah, Marvin's really racking up those points for you in the power category. But yeah, if that's all we have here, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. But I appreciate you hopping on the pod again, Scott, to talk about Ascendance Live. And if you're still watching, make sure you tune in tomorrow night.
Can't wait. Thanks for a good season to this cast so far. I'm really enjoying it.